that in play. So, Jay Tuck, I'm going to start with you here. Your Dallas Cowboys. Any surprises with the 53-man roster? And beyond that, anybody make the squad that we need to know about, somebody that could be a factor for Dallas that might not be a household name?
Yeah, I don't think there was too many surprises. I mean, Cowboys Nation follows me. You should have been up to date and up to speed with everything. But, I think the one that really got a lot of Cowboys fans concerned was Trayshawn Holden. Trayshawn Holden was our undrafted rookie wide receiver at the University of Oregon. And he showed some upside at camp, also in preseason, but didn't get a lot of reps, never really moved up the depth chart. So he was released. So we'll have to sit back and see if he's claimed by waiver wires or not. But I know a lot of Cowboys fans are kind of on edge about that. Deuce Vaughn, which was our cute and cuddly draft story a few years ago, he was finally released. His father was a scout for the Dallas Cowboys, but he was finally let go. And I felt like Deuce Vaughn, even though he had an incredible year and career at Kansas State, it just never really worked out at the NFL level. I think Deuce being cut, we kind of saw it coming, but I think that was one that really kind of stood out was Trayshawn Holden and also Deuce Vaughn, but also Israel Mukuamu. He was released. He's been with the Cowboys for 4 years out of South Carolina. I mean, he has size, length, athleticism, but he never found a position. Is he going to be an outside corner? Is he going to be a safety? So the fact that he was released kind of scratched a few heads. But overall, no major surprises when it comes to the Cowboys.
To the 53, obviously, Terry McLaurin locked in place. Brian Robinson will not be part of the team. Any shockers for the 53-man roster for your Commanders, or was it pretty much status quo?
It was pretty much status quo because the guys that were near the bottom of the 53, it was almost like they didn't want jobs this summer. We didn't really play any of our core or any of our main depth of the team this year in preseason. And the guys that did play, like Sam Hartman and Josh Johnson, I had to watch 3 preseason games of Sam Hartman and Josh Johnson playing quarterback, and it made me want to claw my eyes out. It was very bad. Sam Hartman's not a football player. Sam Hartman was here to shake Jaden Daniels' hand. Sam Hartman was here to be Jaden's personal assistant in uniform. That's all he's been so far. But he's gone. He was released. Josh Johnson making it as QB3 was a surprise. We kept 4 running backs. I knew we weren't keeping 6 receivers, just the main 5 guys with Terry, Luke McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Jalen Lane, Noah Brown. If there's a 6th receiver to be had, we'll find him like we found Noah Brown last year on someone's scrap heap. But no surprises on this end other than undrafted linebacker out of Ali Cahoe. He ended up making the roster after a couple strong preseason games last week. But nope, pretty status quo over here.
Speaking of KB, I'm sorry, a fan favorite in New York gets released today, and Tommy Coldcuts, he's no longer on the roster. But who is Jackson Dart, Russell Wilson, and Jameis Winston. They make up the quarterback room for these Giants as the 53-man gets locked in. Talk to me about your thoughts on what the Giants did today and how that roster is looking heading into next week.
I'm just happy that the Giants didn't do anything that makes them look like they overthought the roster of how it was going to look. There was a lot of talk about them possibly trading Jameis Winston away and then keeping Tommy DeVito on the roster. There was also a lot of talk about even trading Tommy DeVito away, which makes no sense because if he's going to be a cut anyway, no team's going to trade for him. But there was a lot of talk around there of trying to trying to be a Howie Roseman, and trying to trade away players for a quick buck here and there. I'm just happy that they didn't overthink anything and try to get rid of good depth that, should be used on this roster and should be on this roster. As far as how the roster looks, I'm happy with it. There was nothing out there that I really didn't like or disagree with. Probably the biggest thing I would have probably disagreed with is Evan Neal is still on my football team. But I mean, I understand that from a contract standpoint. Evan Neal kind of has to still be on this team. I was live just before we went live here, and I was talking about Evan Neal and, how me as a GM, maybe it's a good thing I'm not a GM, but I would have cut him anyway. But Evan Neal is still on my football team. As far as anything else goes, I'm happy that we kept the quarterback room where it's at. Tommy DeVito, he's a great story. He's a funny meme. He went viral for a lot of moments, but it's just not how good football teams are built. I think the Giants are really starting to turn the corner. I was saying this, just a couple, like an hour ago on my live, where it's like bad football teams keep the fan favorites. Bad football teams keep the locker room guys and stuff like that. And the Giants are kind of turning the corner when it comes to that. Like they cut a lot of fan favorites, locker room guys in this 53-man roster.
Simone, your Eagles are looking to get after yet another Super Bowl title, and their 53-man roster is set in place to do it. That also included an undrafted free agent that made the wide receiver room, which is pretty crazy considering how good this Eagles offense is. Talk to me a little bit about your thoughts on the Eagles 53-man roster that locked in early this afternoon.
Yeah, so Darius Cooper, that's our undrafted free agent, making the 53-man roster. So the wide receiver room, as y'all know, y'all are, well exposed to our wide receiver room. It's competitive in there. It's competitive. So this offseason, obviously, we're going in with the mantra that it's going to be like A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Jahan Dotson, and then, we'll see who fills out. We had 2 rookies from last year that were expected to have big years this season, Anaya Smith and Johnny Wilson. But then once camp started, a lot of guys who were like practice squads and undrafted free agents started really popping off the screen. One of those guys being Darius Cooper, undrafted free agent this year out of Tarleton. Darius started building a relationship with Jalen Hurts early. That's kind of how we knew, this isn't just like a cute camp story. This is for real. Like after, there'll be, he'll make a big catch or he'll make a touchdown. Him and Jalen Hurts will dap up. Jalen Hurts sticking around after practice, talking to him. So we're like, this guy is special. Okay. So then it was crazy when we brought in John Mechie, because like I was telling y'all before last week, it's like, dang, we had a lot of guys, looking good. And then we add in another talent to the wide receiver room. So the wide receiver room, definitely the biggest story. How are we going to slim and trim that down? We did end up having 2 injuries. So Elijah Cooks, a practice squad guy who's been on our practice squad the season before. He was with the Jaguars, didn't really stick. He was having a really good camp early on. Then he ended up getting hurt in the first preseason game. So unfortunately for him, that set him back, made it a little bit easier for us to see the wide receiver room, what it was going to look like. And then Johnny Wilson ends up getting hurt, and he's going to be out for the year. So once Johnny Wilson got hurt, it was pretty much down to Anaya Smith, who was our 5th-round pick last year. Anaya's got hurt in training camp, I believe, last year. So that kind of set him back, and he wasn't able to stick. This year, Anais was looking really good at camp. Darius Cooper was just, he's just so explosive, phenomenal. And then, again, the relationship he built with Jalen Hurts. So the biggest question was, how are we going to slim down the wide receiver room? It ended up being Anaya Smith getting waived. So shout out to Darius Cooper, undrafted free agent, making that room.